All right, take your Bibles, turn to Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6. And as we've been studying through of Do Life Big. And I love that theme because everything that God does for us, it should be big. It's a big change in our life, isn't it? If we didn't have God in our life would just be so menial and meaningless and not big at all. So in Ephesians chapter 6, and I've got the privilege of speaking to the kids. That's why we brought them up there. And we'll get back to that floss thing at the end. We're not going to dance again, okay? I would promise you that. But we'll make a return back there. But Ephesians chapter 6. And now how many of you, and I know because us parents, we know these verses by heart, don't we? How many have ever used verse number 1? Okay. How many of you have ever used it to guilt your children into doing what you want them to do? Every hand should be up there too, okay? So let's read through Ephesians 6, verses 1 through 4. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. I said how we've used this verse. We put a playroom in our house. And one of the things that my wife had done, she had taken the chalkboard paint. You ever met kind of a phase seemed to go through. Some of us still probably have it. And about 8 inches tall, she writes that verse right across the top of it, okay? So they see it every day that they walk into that playroom. The part of children, obey your parents in the Lord. She didn't have to go any farther. She said, hey, God said it, so you better be paying attention to what you're seeing here. You better listen to mom and dad. And we've all done that, haven't we? To some extent. We live in a culture void of honor, don't we? We live in an ever-changing culture. And it seems the farther that we go, the farther away from honor we distance ourselves. We live in an entitlement society, don't we? We've seen that with I know that the millennials have taken an absolute thrashing, haven't you? I know there's several millennials. This Generation Z that we talk about, which is our children, and they're taking a beating over this as well. And we've talked about some of those things over the last several months to a year. And as we've heard some of those descriptions of the different generations, go to 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse number 17. 1 Peter 2 and verse number 17. Hold your spot in Ephesians 6 because we're going to keep referring back there. But we're going to do some studying around a little bit, okay? 1 Peter chapter 2:17 says, honor all men. Love the brotherhood, fear God, and honor the king. How much of this is missing in our society? There's a lot of it. There's probably a big percentage of what we're seeing right here that's missing in our society. I know that the phrase that we say is, well, back in my day, and then finish the sentence. We didn't do it that way. We had respect for our elders. We had all these things, right? And each generation can say that about the generation before, but I do feel that there is something that's missing, and the farther that we're getting, the more that we are seeing that. I think we all would agree that honor begins at home, wouldn't we? We can live life big if we live by these principles that we find in the first few verses in chapter 6. There's just 4 verses there. God even promises us that we may live long on the earth. We see that in verse number 3. Live long on the earth. So why wouldn't we want to do life big? Why wouldn't we want to do as the song was saying there, and as we've been walking through Ephesians the last few weeks, and as we're going to continue to walk through in the next week or so, as we get wrapping up there. So I want to look at some principles here of honor, okay? The first one is the principle of honor. Pretty simple, isn't it? I'm very simple. Pastor, I'm very simple. You ask my wife and kids, I'm one of the most simple people you ever come across, okay? But our first point is the principle of honor. So when I start studying on anything, whether it's in the Bible, whether it's a word that we hear or a phrase, we do, what do? We go to a dictionary and we look it up, okay? So the meaning of honor is this: to put value to something, to recognize it as precious and worthy of respect. So as I look at that word honor, and I look at the definitions, you go to the thesaurus, okay? We look at the synonyms, and we also look at the antonyms. So let's look at the antonyms. It's the opposite, right? That's our go back to our elementary education, okay? The antonym of honor is to dishonor. Very good. We are good scholars, aren't we? To dishonor is to treat something as common. Make note of that word. Ordinary and of no value. It's making the claim that there is nothing special about you. There's a distinct difference between honor and respect, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But when we dishonor our parents, and kids, I want you to hear this, okay? When we dishonor our parents, we are telling them there is nothing special about you. You are common. You are just like anybody else. We're going to find an example of that as we walk through here, and the seriousness of when we make somebody common, especially those that have authority over us as being our parents. One of the things we need to look at, let's look at the motive. Honor is not something that you strive to get, but you seek to give. Creating not just a title, but a testimony. So many of us, we always think this: you need to respect me. How many times do we say that? I've said that. We are deserving of respect. So, but that's not what we should be looking for. We want that testimony of honor. What can I give you? How can I give honor to somebody? Then you'll see in that turnaround, honor will be given back in the right order. There's a distinct difference between honor and respect. Respect is an action. When I tell my kids to do a chore, that they're going to do that out of respect. It might take 2 or 3 times sometimes, right? It might take us pulling our hair out, but they'll do it out of obedience and respect. Honor, though, is an attitude. If I tell my kids, and I say me, when Melissa tells her children, her darling daughters, to fold the towels. All right? You guys probably have a lot of towels. We have so much laundry between the 3 girls, my wife, and myself. And they got their sports. They got this. They're 3 outfit changes a day almost. You can imagine what our laundry room looks like. So when Melissa tells my daughters, I want you to fold the towels, they'll fold the towels out of respect and obedience. Go back to verse number 1 on that. Children, obey your parents. They've got that. Honor takes it a step further. Honor is once they folded the towels, then they put them away. They put them in the cabinet. They put it in the closet, right? Silly kind of thinking there, but just because Melissa didn't tell them to put them away when you're done, they take it the next step farther. Have you ever gone to a Reds game or high school? I saw this, and I know Mike's just here at Goshen High School. Mike's the assistant principal at the middle school, isn't it? They were hosting the tournament, and we've seen this. I'm standing in line. I'm starving. I was rushing to get there. We've made a living off of concession food, pizza, hot dogs, you name it, right? If you're running kids to ball games, that's your diet for like 12 years, okay? So I'm standing in line, and the national anthem begins to play. I tell you what, this guy, as hungry as he was not getting a hot dog because they stopped. And what I watched happen, the office from where they had their concession table, their office was right there. It's all glass, isn't it, Mike? And guess what you saw right through those glass windows? There was an American flag, and the ones that's working the concession stand, and everyone in that line turns, put their hand over their heart, and giving respect to a flag and honor to those who gave their life for this country. There's still honor. We can find it. And I know that the professional sports in the NFL hasn't done the greatest job of that, but if they knew what was going on out in the concourse of an NFL game, those that's taking those knees and everything, if they know that there's people out there that's stopping what they're doing and giving honor to a country, to a people, I think their viewpoint would be a lot different. Honor goes the extra step and says that because I love you, I esteem you, and I value you, not just because you have authority over me. Doesn't matter. The second part in that is the majesty. Go to Revelation chapter 7. Again, hold your spot in Ephesians. Revelation chapter 7. Revelation 7:12 says this, saying amen, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto our God forever. Amen. He's majestic. We give him we went through our worship. We had our portion there, didn't we? And we don't just do it through song. We do it in the way we live our life. Here's a thought to think about. We serve a God, we live for a God that actually honors each and every one of us in this room. Think about this. We live on a rock that is 3 planets away from the sun, spinning thousands of miles per hour without flinging us off, without going so slow where we're drooped to the ground. Gravity's an amazing thing, isn't it? If we tilt 1 degree one way or the other, we either freeze or we fry. But we live on a privileged planet, don't we? Not just for the Christian, not just for those of us that have accepted Christ. Also think of this. We have a God who doesn't need us. He doesn't need us. But he invites us into a relationship with him. It's different. Here's the greatest miracle of all in regards to honor. This God that's worthy of honor actually honors you. The fact that you are alive today, the fact you have breath today. You know what that's called? It's called general grace. And it's from me, it's to Austin, it's to Bruce, it's to Blaine, it's to every one of us. But like I said, it's not just for us that's followers of Christ. Whether we honor him or not, he still honors us. We're alive because of him. We exist because of him. Everything that we do, he gave us that free will to make that choice. Remember, he invites us into this relationship. He gave us that willingness to, I want that relationship. I want to step into this. So watch this. When we enter a relationship with him, and these are Bible words, okay? These are not made up, and we are familiar with many of these words. We are adopted. We are ambassadors. We are beloved. We are chosen. We are new creatures. We're forgiven. We're holy. We're justified, righteous, redeemed, worthy. That's just a few of them I picked out. We could keep on going. The Bible's full of them. He continues to pursue you. He continues to pursue you to bestow honor in your life so that you fully understand who you are by recognizing who he is. When we understand that he's majestic, he's marvelous, he's a merciful God, then you begin to understand that we're not an accident. No one else gets to determine our value, do they? So many times that when we look at people, see, we dishonor them because we've already got a preconceived idea of who they are, and we know nothing about them. But yet, there's a God that doesn't care. No one else gets to determine our value. We're image bearers of God. We embrace the principle of honor. Number 2, the promise in honor. There's a command. The first time is in the Ten Commandments. Go to Exodus chapter 20. There's the first time that there's a command with a promise. We're all familiar with the Ten Commandments. We've learned them. We've studied them. Our schools used to have them, right? Some still do. Some will hang on. But our laws are based off of the Ten Commandments. I want to take a look at verse number 12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earth, which the Lord hath given thee. There's that promise again, right? A long life. But this is the first commandment that we've seen with honor. As we understand that the Ten Commandments were for all of us, wasn't it? For every one of us. But let's take a look at the context at the time as well. This commandment was given to all of us, but this was in regards to the children of Israel, being delivered from bondage from the Egyptians into a land flowing with milk and honey, right? The proverbial Cracker Barrel is how I like to think of it. He wants to take us from McDonald's to Cracker Barrel, right? Where it's full, where it's the big tables. He wants what's best for us. He wants us to have a big life, doesn't he? Not just settle for McDonald's. McDonald's has got good fries, but that's about it, okay? We can find some other stuff there. I like the pies too, so let's not just limit it to the fries. What's the principle with promise? It's not adultery, it's not killing, it's not stealing, but honoring our father and our mother. There's a promise that comes with that. Go back to Ephesians chapter 6, if you got your place held there, okay? Children, obey your Lord. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. Parents, we teach our children to obey honor and authority, don't we? Here's the reason why. Because in obedience and honor of people that have been placed over you, it unlocks, get this, it unlocks and unleashes blessings in your life. He's got a vault that he is just waiting to bust the door wide open and say, I want to give you these blessings. I have so much that I want to give you. Why is it that you're settling for less? I heard a young fella tell me, he goes, I don't want to live long. And he is 17 years old. He said, I don't want to live to be in my 80s. I said, why not? He said, I just don't think I can handle it. I said, you're 17. I'm 44. I know I'm kind of right in that middle of the pack right now, right? That's what we call middle age. I never considered myself middle age, but I'm getting that way. I feel it more and more each year, okay? Some of these guys, they think you're ancient. You know, my kids think I'm ancient. I used to think some of you all were ancient when I was their age. Not so much now, okay? You guys are young. You guys are vibrant. You guys are lively, okay? But it's a big, full life. He doesn't say that the days are numbered. He's saying, I'm going to give you life. I want to give you all that I have. I want to give you the blessings. Even at 44, I can say my life has been full of blessings. I have my children. I have my wife. I've got lots of friends and family, except for Bob Drake. You know what he said to me when I'm coming in? He's coming in. He said, boy, he turns to the niece, he said, see, I told you. And she's like, what? He said, he's still ugly. Bob, I thought we was tighter than that. I told him, I said, I definitely didn't get prettier from this morning to this evening, so I probably asked for some of it too. Somebody feels sorry for me and, this homely kid, okay? Go to Bob for a blessing if you want one, anytime. So why is it important, okay? Why is it important for our kids? Like I said, we focus a lot on the obedience. Respect. You better respect me. I brought you into this world, I could take you out, and there's a lot of truth in that. We know that, don't we? There's times we are ready to bring their necks, and by the grace of God, God says, whoa, stop. But moms and dads, it's not just so that little Johnny doesn't interrupt our life. Sometimes we get They bother us, don't they? They're under our feet. They're all around us and whatever. It's not just so Johnny is, he's just bugging us. It's not just so that you can tolerate your children. It's so your children can actually thrive in society. So that they can, because the one thing, and as I've experienced, my oldest daughter's here, Allison, the second one's graduating, and that's what we want to see. We want to see them thrive. We want to do everything that we can to set them to a successful, not just monetarily, but spiritually. Because they can't obey physical authority inside your home, they're going to have difficulty obeying physical authority outside your home. If they can't see it, right? That's physical. That's our relationship. They can see that. They see mom. They see dad. That's physical. Let's go another step farther. If they can't handle physical authority, they're not going to handle invisible authority, spiritual authority. Believing in a God and having faith in a God that we've not even seen physically with our eyes. We see His creation, but we've not physically seen Him. It's going to have a hard time, isn't it? How are they going to thrive? How are they going to succeed spiritually in their walk? One of the neatest things, and I've said this before, it is awesome seeing our students discovering their faith. When there's, and I heard the pastor said it this morning. He said, you know what? Doubting is not a sin. Ignoring it, that's a sin. But doubting's not a sin. Doubting your salvation, here's how I see it. They're discovering their faith. They've put so much faith into mom and dad. And then those of you that have brought your kids, my kids are that same way. They're at church every Sunday night, Wednesday. Any opportunities that they're there, I've brought them. But what they are doing, they are following in mom and dad's faith sometimes. It's when they start discovering. And I'm not saying that they're not saved. I'm saying that they are discovering their faith. They want to understand who this God is, who this person is that I'm in a relationship. By faith, whether they're 5, 6, whatever that age is, 21, 50, doesn't matter. They're discovering their faith. And it's neat to see them do that. And sometimes, I didn't grab it when I was younger, but it took time. And you know what? That's because I was a young Christian too, and I'm learning those things. And now I'm discovering what this relationship is. Someone that has, we've heard this before, they make this phrase, ain't no one going to tell me what to do, right? Those two people, there's two different types of people there. They either end up in prison or the military, right? That's just real. That's honest talk right there. So notice this. If you can't obey physical authority, how difficult will it be for their walk? Go to Mark chapter 6. Let me show you, and kids, pay attention to this. Remember I said, when we look at the antonym for honor is dishonor. Being made common. Mark chapter 6 and verses 1 through 6. And he went out from thence and came into his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, From whence hath this man these things? And what wisdom is this which is given unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his name? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph and Judah and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him. But Jesus said unto them, A prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin and in his own house. And he could there do no mighty works, save that he laid his hands upon a few sick folk and healed them. Verse number 6, and he marveled because of their unbelief. And he went around the villages teaching. Think about that anonym, dishonor, to make common. What happened in verse number 3? Let's take a look at it. Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph and of Judah and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? and they were offended at him. They know who he is. They're saying, I know who your dad is. I know who your mom is. I know who your brothers are. I know who your sisters are. You are nothing special. That's his hometown. That's his home place. See how he's made common? Kids, we need to understand it. And this isn't just kids. Because guess what? I'm 44 years old and I'm still a kid. I'm still someone's kid. I might not be a kid. I might act like a kid. I might dance around like a kid with them up here. But I'm still the son of Randy and Kathy. My parents, many of you know them. I'm still a kid. And I still don't need to make them common. Even if my parents have passed away, and many of you, your parents have passed away, we've had grandparents that's passed away, we still bring honor to them. We don't make them common. Some of us, might not have had the best childhood or in whatever, and I understand some of those situations, but they still have honor because they was our parents. That was who God gave us. But they made him common. Remember the Roman centurion? He says to Jesus that one of his guys are sick. Jesus starts to walk in that direction, and the centurion stops him and says, No. You don't have to go to my house. Just speak the words. The interesting thing is, he was made common in his own hometown. He's recognized regionally as the Son of God. His own hometown said, no, you can't handle your business here. You can't do what you're claiming, or you can't claim who you say that you are. But a Roman centurion that had the faith, he understood. He got it. He gave honor. See, when we live in a society that has no honor, and we bring honor to that society, miracles will start to happen. Just because our society around us, and this isn't just for our kids, this is for all of us. Just because our society around us is going in a completely different direction, getting away from the core values that's built upon His Word, our laws are built off of our morals. But it's interesting to see what can happen, right? The miracles that can happen. The third thing is the pathway to honor. It's mandated, isn't it? Government, civil authority. Romans chapter 13, you don't have to turn there. We're very familiar that we are to honor what God has set for us. But verse number 7 says this, Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. And like I said, we're finding it more and more as days go by. The Bible talks about it in the book of Revelation as well, doesn't he? We are getting away from the principles of His Word. So whether it's right to obey God or obey man, we choose Acts chapter 4. In the words of Peter, we choose to obey God. We choose to follow. We choose to respect. We continue to choose to honor. We may not respect the man, but we respect the rank, right? We can say that with our presidents. Doesn't matter who the president is. Doesn't matter if it was Obama, if it's Trump. You can find some things that you don't necessarily agree with. We all get in our politics talk, don't we? We have our stands, we have our beliefs, and hold true to those. But regardless of who's in, we don't know who our next president is going to be 2020. But you know what? God is the one that appointed that. We find it in Romans chapter 13. God allowed it to happen, doesn't He? Doesn't matter the man, the woman, whoever that might be. Which means that if we have a beef with the issue, with who has been placed in the position, then we need to go to God. We need to petition that to Him, don't we? Because He set them there. In your workplace, our police officers, our schools, wherever you go, it's mandated, isn't it? So it needs to be demonstrated. Go to Hebrews chapter 13. Hebrews chapter 13. So how do we demonstrate? Hebrews 13:18 says this, Pray for us, for we trust we have a good conscience, in all things willing to live honestly, to live in honor, right? How many of you guys, your kids play sports? Grandkids, friends, close friends, a lot of us do. My girls have all played sports. How many of you guys, you watch your child out on the court? Ref makes a call, foul against them, and they submitted to what the ref said, but their body language said something totally different, right? Oh, come, they went along with it. Here's what I find too. I found myself here as well. As I'm sitting in the stands, I hated that call. That was a dumb call. What do you mean? You didn't see this, but you saw that? And then guess what? Melissa can turn to me and say, hey, you're no different than your child out there on the floor, right? What's the right thing for me to do? All right. Whether it's Allison, whether it's Emily, whoever it is, Daddy was in the wrong. It's hard for dads to admit when we're in the wrong, isn't it? Yes, it is. We've got a lot of pride, don't we? Then I probably should go to that ref. Now, I found myself in a spot. I was about 3 feet out I was down on Western Brown, I was out onto the court. I didn't even realize I was on the court. There was a call that was horrible, being bumped around and whatever. Allison was probably about junior high at that time. And here's the funny thing. I kept the books for the 8th grade team. My daughter's in the 7th grade team. She's on the 7th grade team. I'm going to keep their book. You keep mine so that we can watch our kids and everything. The whistle blows, and they called me out. They said, I thought, oh, I'm out here on the court. How did I get there? I was sitting on the front row. Don't ever put me on the front row, okay? And I'm a good parent. I'm not that parent, okay? I was that night. And so there was 2 refs watching on the other side of the court. And they're watching this all go down. They knew it was a bad call. They told me about it. So they didn't throw me out. Thank goodness. I can watch the rest of the game. But I go, as I'm making my way to that table, the game's now done. I'm making my way to the scorer's table, and those 2 refs on the other side of the floor, they're watching me. They're watching where I go. And then all of a sudden, the closer I get to that scoring table, now they've turned to a scowl. Oh, he's that guy. See what I'm saying? And I went to them and I said, they come over and they said, we're not going to have any problems, are we? I said, no, sir. No, ma'am. We're not. But I didn't get a chance to talk to them, but I did tell them, I said, relay the message for me. I apologize, okay? Hard for us to do. So when we see our actions through our kids, it's in ourselves. They've learned it somewhere. Disrespect, dishonor. When we choose to operate in honor, we're not always going to get it right, are we? I might try in every bit of my circumstance, but sometimes we get so competitive, whatever it might be, and we lose that, don't we? We're not always going to get it right, but we need to be willing to own it, to ask God, would you be able to forgive me? Then it needs to be initiated. Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12 and verse number 10. Be kindly, affection one to another with brotherly love, in honor, preferring one another. How many of you guys, and I know how we feel, we got a lot of mixed feelings on the NFL right now. How many of you guys watch the draft, regardless of how you feel? Some. Did you keep up a little bit? I know I don't have to sit there and be planted in front of the TV anymore. But there was a story that was taking place. It was 2 brothers. Did you guys hear this? Shaquille and Shaquem Griffin, identical twins. They have a unique story. One was born with no left hand. And I've got a section of a video that we want to show. Check out their story. It was
The Griffin brothers have always been more than close. They were a package deal.
We was going to live together. We was going to pay together. We was going to marry twins. We were going to have twin kids, and we didn't know how serious it was until we started getting scholarship offers.
While Shaquille began getting offers from D1 powerhouses, Shaquem did not.
He turned down so many from UF, FSU, Miami. He turned down so many teams. It was unbelievable.
It was about sticking with my brother, and the bond and the love I have for him was way bigger than some scholarship.
The first school to offer both brothers a scholarship was the University of Central Florida. Shaquille quickly moved up the depth chart there. Shaquem didn't, struggling in his first several seasons.
Had to sit for a while, watch my brother play. I was always happy for him, but I always felt like it was so much more for me to do. I think that was a time where I didn't know where I was going to be playing ever again.
What doubt did you have?
Doubt? I don't remember having doubt. Just being scared of stopping. Just needed somebody to give me a chance to show them that I can.
That chance came in 2016 when Scott Frost took over as head coach.
Hit right away by Shaquem Griffin.
It was obvious right away how good an athlete he was. It was easy after the first couple practices to look past how many hands he had, and we knew we had to find a place for him on the field.
It's not a gas jam, baby! Let's go!
Gave me a fair shot to start. I ain't looked back ever since.
Interesting story. There's a lot more to it. Check it out on YouTube if you haven't watched it already. The interesting thing is Shaquille, his brother, was the better talent of the two. And he said, I am not going to take a full ride scholarship. And if you know anything about college football, I'm a huge college football fan. I'm not a big pro fan, so I still hold it, and I like to see where these guys do go. Florida, Miami, South Florida. And they said, no, I'm not taking that deal unless my brother is in on it with me. He gave honor to his brother. Full ride scholarship, knowing that probably his skills were probably going to get him to the NFL anyway. But he said, I'm not doing it without him. Now, the interesting thing is this, and I did go back and look. 5th round, yesterday afternoon. Now, let me go back. Shaquille, last year was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. This year, his brother Shaquem was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. They're back together playing again. That to me, that's a full circle right there. There's honor. We've got people that's right there beside us. As we even look at our theme of side by side, they're right there. We can honor each other. We can lift each other up. Some of us are doing that, and I pray that continues, not just for a short time, but that's something that continues to grow. Go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and last place, I promise. I know we've been jumping around, but that's good to dig in God's Word and see what He says. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. My last part is being consecrated. 1 Thessalonians 4:4, that every one of you should know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and honor. I want to conclude. We started off something silly, fun, get a little energy going, I get it. There was a point to it. Might not seem like it at the time, but there was a point to it. But that word floss, Kenny had some dental floss, that's what we think of floss. We got a dance move now, floss. There's no telling what it could mean in another 20 years. Who knows, right, Kenny? But floss, but let's take a look at that, okay? Fear God. We respect. We obey Him. We love others. We put others before us. We put moms and dads before us. And guess what? They'll put honor back into you. Moms have one of the best examples of honor. You know what? They come home. Many of them work. They honor their husband. They honor their children. They're cooking. They clean. They do it out of honor because they love. They esteem those that's in their home. Perfect example from our moms. Mother's Day coming up in a couple weeks. There's a plug for you guys, okay? Remember mamas, okay? Others. We put others first. We esteem them. We lift them up. Situation, in every circumstance. And that's where it gets hard sometimes, doesn't it? Because they might have wronged us at some point. Maybe they have made some of those failures. But in every situation, we still need to give them honor. And then the last one is stays. It never stops. Like I said before, many of us have probably, you've lost, your parents are gone. You still honor them. You still have a namesake. It doesn't stop. It continues. One of the examples is this, and Julie knows the family because they're there in Sabina. Bruce Boggs is his name, and I shared this with Matt too, and I was wanting to get a little video of him because it was neat, the relationship between him and his father. And our schedules just couldn't work out, but we talked a little bit. And Bruce, his dad, Harold, was one of those guys in your community that, my goodness, you talk about an influence in your community, in our little village of Sabina. What Howard did every Saturday, my kids know this, Matt got to see this because Titus, you got to see this, you might not have realized it, when you were playing in a league up at East Clinton. Before the first game that kicked off, Harold sang the national anthem before every game, before the day got started. And it was one of the neatest. Bruce Boggs ran the league. That's how he honored his dad. And then the sweetest thing after every time, and Harold was a man's man. Bruce is a man's man. These are not, some cupcakes, whatever. These are men's men. As soon as Harold would finish that last line, Bruce would go over every time, and they would embrace in the biggest hug because, you know what? He honored his dad. Harold passed away end of November, and to this day, we've even had a couple other conversations. Bruce honors his father. It's a unique relationship, and it's what a picture of honor for our parents. And you know what? It's a picture of how we honor our God. That we embrace Him. I told you, He's waiting. So keep in mind, honor is not a title, it's a testimony. It's not something that we get, it's something that we give. You know what we get in return? We might not get honor. We might not get what we expect, but we get grace. We receive grace. He wants to engage with us. Let's engage. I want you to think of our relationships. Are we bringing honor? Because it starts in the home, right? Starts at home. Are we bringing honor to our parents? Beyond that, we bring honor to a God that loves us, that wants to give us a big life. Are we doing that?